Throughout the times of mass Jewish immigration from the pogroms in Tsarist Russia under Tsar Alexander III and later from Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler, Jewish newcomers were always seen as non-British. In order to control the number of Jewish immigrants coming in, the British government issued the Registration of Aliens Act of 1836. This meant those who wanted to enter the country had to provide identification upon arrival, but did not give officials any powers to deport any aliens when they arrived. In 1886, the Select Committee on Emigration and Immigration was appointed, which was supposed to use the laws of the US to control immigration in the UK. The main concern was that there was very little recorded on immigration, so it was decided that measures must be put in place to be sure of the numbers that had already settled in the country. The destination goal for wealthy Jews was the US, only using the UK as a transit, and immigration to the UK decreased because of this. The poorer Jews set up home in the impoverished inner city areas, mostly East London. The most common jobs a Jewish husband would take on once settled would be tailoring or shoe, cabinet and cigar making. Native Londoners saw the Jewish strangers as different, and they became of the social evils of the time, for example, unemployment and rent rising. One of these Londoners was Arnold White, an anti-Semite who led a protest against increasing foreign immigration. He believed that the poor Jews were having a negative effect on housing, employment and health. In 1901, the British Brothers League was founded by MP William Evans Gordon, which had the same anxieties as Arnold White and his followers. The group led a demonstration in 1902 in Mile End to demand for further restrictions on the immigration of destitute foreigners. In order to reduce the immigration of Jews, of which 120,000 settled in Britain between 1880 and 1914, the government passed the Aliens Act in 1905. The Act introduced port controls supervised by immigration control officers. Immigrants were inspected on arrival at the ports. However, only the poorest were inspected, the cabin passengers were not. Those examined were subject to a poverty test. Failure meant refused entry, and among the excluded were the mad, diseased, and the criminal. In 1914, the Aliens Restriction Act was passed. This allowed the power to restrict immigration and deportation measures. Immigrants had to register with the police, and places where they could live were restricted. The Act's main aim was to target enemy aliens as the Great War was beginning. When the war ended, Britain found itself with many of those from war-torn countries trying to escape, and so passed the 1919 Aliens Restrictions Amendment Act. This added newer restrictions such as a constricted employment rights, not allowing certain jobs. In 1933, Jews started to arrive from Nazi Germany. By then, immigration was under the control of the Home Office and voluntary committees. For example, the Jewish Refugees Committee, set up by Anglo-Jews who managed the influx of refugees and paid for the costs. By March 1933, 400 Germans, mostly Jews, had arrived in the UK to escape the Nazi regime, and by April, a further 150. The government was afraid that the mass immigration would cause financial issues due to the costs of allowing people into the country. The Home Secretary, John Gilmer, brought it up, claiming that Jews that stayed in the country were poor and had nothing to contribute to the British economy, a recurring concern. The Jewish leaders of the committees offered that the Jewish community take responsibility for the refugees. They wanted the Home Office to relax immigration control, claiming to have a scheme to provide money and work for destitute Jews. On April 12th, the government accepted their recommendation. The Jewish taking responsibility meant that there were no financial consequences for the Home Office. Between March and October 1933, 4/5 of immigrants were German, some of whom were Poles who lived in Germany, who were poorer than German Jews. Many British politicians disapproved of the Nazis' Jewish persecution, but still held anti-Semitic views themselves. For example, Sir Horace Rumbold was strongly anti-Nazi, but understood their anti-Jewish attitudes. He blamed the bad Jews, the poor most likely, for making the good Jews suffer in Germany. The Prime Minister at the time, Neville Chamberlain, was horrified at Kristallnacht, where Jewish homes and businesses were smashed up, but was privately anti-Semitic. Despite this, he did not find violence against Jews necessary, wanting good relations with Nazi Germany if they stopped the persecutions. 5 days after Kristallnacht, British Jews and Quakers met with Chamberlain and he passed a bill to allow unaccompanied Jewish children into the country. This led to rescue efforts such as Kindertransport, and 500 homes in Britain offered to foster the children. From the evidence, it can be concluded that in order to be welcomed as a British citizen, you had to have some wealth in order to contribute to the British economy. Destitute Jews weren't as well received as wealthy Jews. Not that many wealthy Jews settled in the UK.